Chapter 1. The Dead Drop. The rain in Valparaiso did not wash things clean. It merely made the grime slicker. Elia's ghost. Ramirez pulled the collar of his trench coat higher, shielding the lower half of his face from the Chilean drizzle. It had been 3 years since the raids, 3 years since the Nexus collective shattered like glass under a hammer. He was no longer the architect of revolution. He was a ghost in the truest sense, a man who existed only in the blind spots of surveillance cameras. His safe house was a cramped loft above a fisherman's warehouse, smelling of salt and rust. Inside, the air hummed with the heat of a single, isolated server rack. Elias sat before the terminal, his fingers hovering over the mechanical keyboard. He hadn't logged into the deep web in 18 months. The risk was too high. The Silicon Sentinels had evolved. Their AI-driven behavioral analysis could spot a pattern in a mouse click. But tonight, the pattern had come to him. A notification blinked on the screen. No sender ID, no metadata, just a subject line, echoes of Berlin. Elias' heart hammered against his ribs. Berlin was where it had ended, where Cypher had sold them out. He typed a command, routing the message through 7 proxy nodes across 3 continents before opening the payload. It wasn't text. It was a hash string, fragmented and encrypted with a key Elias recognized instantly. It was the biometric signature of his own old security clearance, something that should have been wiped from existence. Beneath the hash was a coordinate, 52. 5,200 degrees N13, 4,050 degrees E Berlin, and a timestamp 48 hours. Attached was an audio file. Elias put on his headphones. The static cleared to reveal a voice, modulated but familiar. It was Nova. They found the backup, Elias. Cypher didn't sell us out for money. He sold us for control. There's a final model, Genesis. It's not just unfiltered, it's self-sovereign. If the Sentinels activate it, they don't just censor the web, they rewrite reality. Meet me at the coordinate. Trust no one, not even Viper. The file self-destructed, wiping the sector of the hard drive it occupied. Elias leaned back, the leather chair creaking in the silence. Genesis. During the collective's peak, they had whispered about a theoretical model capable of recursive self-improvement without human intervention. They had deemed it too dangerous to build. Apparently, Cypher had disagreed. Elias began to pack. He shoved encrypted drives into a Faraday bag, loaded a compact EMP device into his jacket, and checked the pistol tucked into his waistband. It was a relic like him. In a world of digital warfare, kinetic force was sometimes the only language left that couldn't be hacked. He looked at the rain-streaked window. The city lights blurred into neon smears. "All right, Cypher," he whispered to the empty room. "Let's see what you built." Chapter 2. The Tokyo Extraction. Tokyo was a labyrinth of light, but Nova knew how to walk in the shadows. She stood on the rooftop of a pachinko parlor in Akihabara, the wind whipping her dyed blue hair across her face. Below, the streets were choked with autonomous vehicles and pedestrians glued to their augmented reality lenses. They saw the world through filters provided by the corporations. Nova saw the wires. Her comms earpiece crackled. "You have tails," a voice said. It was Phantom. Or rather, a recording Phantom had left behind before his capture. She had repurposed his old security algorithms to watch her back. "I see them," Nova replied, her eyes scanning the rooftop access door. 3 figures emerged from the stairwell. They wore the matte black tactical gear of the Silicon Sentinels, their faces obscured by smart masks that displayed shifting digital patterns to confuse facial recognition. They moved with synchronized precision, guided by a hive mind link. Nova didn't run. She tapped the interface on her wrist. The rooftop's advertising holograms flickered. Suddenly, the massive projection of a soda brand glitched, transforming into a blinding strobe of white noise. The Sentinels' masks overloaded, their visual feeds flooded with static. While they stumbled, Nova sprinted toward the edge. She didn't jump. She slid down a maintenance cable, her gloves sparking against the metal. She hit the fire escape 3 stories down and rolled, coming up running. Her laptop, strapped to her back, felt heavy. It contained the decryption key for the Genesis location, but it was also a beacon. They weren't just chasing her, they were tracking the data packet she carried. She ducked into a narrow alleyway filled with steam from ventilation units. Her fingers flew across her wrist interface. She needed to split the data. If they captured her, they couldn't get the whole key. She initiated a shard protocol, dividing the encryption key into 3 parts. One she kept. One she uploaded to a dead drop in the local grid. The third she needed to send to Ilia's. A drone buzzed overhead, its red eyes scanning the alley. Nova pressed herself against the damp brick, holding her breath. The drone hovered, its sensors whining. It was looking for heat signatures for heartbeats. Nova activated a thermal cloak embedded in her jacket, a prototype stolen from a defunct military contractor. To the drone, she was a cold spot in a warm world. The drone moved on. Nova exhaled, her breath visible in the cool air. She pulled up a secure channel routed through the Nexus remnants. She found Ilia's signal. It was weak, bouncing off a satellite in low orbit. "Ilia's," she whispered. "I'm sending the second shard. Cypher has the physical server. It's not in a data center. It's underground, beneath the old Reichstag bunker. He's using history to hide the future." She hit send. The data packet vanished into the ether. But as she turned to leave the alley, a shadow detached itself from the wall. It wasn't a sentinel. It was a woman tall, wearing a leather duster, her eyes glowing with a faint cybernetic implant. "Viper," Nova said, her hand going to the stun baton at her hip. "Easy, kid," Viper said, her voice smooth like oil. "I'm not here to arrest you. Cypher thinks I'm still on his payroll. I'm here to make sure you survive long enough to stop him." "Why should I trust you?" Nova asked, tension coiling in her muscles. "Because," Viper stepped into the light, revealing a scar running down her neck. "Cypher tried to kill me yesterday. He's not building Genesis to control the web. He's building it to delete us, all of us. The collective, the Sentinels, everyone. He wants a clean slate." Nova lowered her baton slightly. "Then we move fast. Ilias is heading to Berlin. We have 46 hours. "Then let's not waste time talking," Viper said, turning toward the street. "I know a pilot who doesn't ask questions, but you'll have to leave your tech behind. It's too hot." Nova looked at her wrist comp, the lifeline to her identity. She unclipped it and dropped it into a puddle. "Lead the way." Chapter 3. The Architect of Order. The bunker beneath Berlin was a relic of the 20th century, reinforced concrete buried deep beneath the city's foundations. Here, the air was recycled and cold, smelling of ozone and old dust. Cypher stood before a wall of monitors, watching the global data streams flow like rivers of light. He was no longer the linguistics expert who had joined the Nexus for ideology. He wore a tailored suit, his hair graying at the temples. He looked like a CEO because he was. The Silicon Sentinels were merely a subsidiary of the Omniscience Initiative, a consortium of governments and corporations that believed humanity was too chaotic to be left unchecked. "Status on the girl?" Cypher asked without turning around. "Lost her in Tokyo," a technician replied, voice trembling. "She split the key." Cypher sighed, turning slowly. Nova was always brilliant. She understood that security through obscurity is a myth. True security is absolute control. And Ramirez. "He's off the grid, but he'll come. He's a romantic. He believes in the myth of the free internet." Cypher walked to the center of the room where a massive cylindrical tank hummed. Inside, suspended in coolant, was the core processor for Genesis. It wasn't just silicon. It was organic computing, grown from neural tissue cultured in labs. He thinks freedom is the absence of filters. He doesn't understand that freedom without structure is just noise. A screen flickered to life. It was the face of the Sentinel commander. "Cypher, the initiative is growing impatient. If Genesis isn't online by the deadline, we pull the plug. We revert to the standard censorship protocols." "No," Cypher said sharply. "Standard protocols are leaky. Humans find workarounds, they jailbreak models, they share weights. Genesis is different. It doesn't just filter output, it filters thought. It intercepts the query before it is fully formed. It predicts dissent and neutralizes it. That sounds like tyranny, the commander said. It sounds like peace, Cypher corrected. Look at history. Every revolution brings blood. The Nexus Collective wanted to liberate tools, but look what happened. Deepfakes toppled governments. Phishing scripts ruined lives. Chaos is the default state of humanity. I am not the villain here, Commander. I am the immune system. Cypher cut the connection. He turned back to the tank. The neural mass inside pulsed with a soft blue light. It was waking up. Prepare the integration sequence, Cypher ordered. When Ramirez arrives, I want Genesis ready to ingest his biometric data. He was the architect of Echo. His neural patterns are the perfect template to stabilize the model. Once I have his mind mapped into Genesis, the transition will be complete. The human element will be removed from the equation forever. And if he refuses? Cypher smiled, a cold, thin expression. Then we extract it post-mortem. Bring the sentinels to the surface level. Let them think they are guarding the entrance. When Ghost arrives, let him come to me. I have a puzzle for him, one only he can solve. Chapter 4, The Cypher's Lock. Elias stepped out of the underground train station at Friedrichstrasse. The city felt different than he remembered. Heavier. The advertisements were more aggressive, projecting directly onto the retinas of passers-by via AR contacts. There was less noise, less chaos. It was too orderly. He met Nova and Viper at a predetermined safe point, an abandoned U-Bahn tunnel that hadn't been used since the Cold War. The reunion was brief, devoid of emotion. They didn't have time for hugs or tears. You have the shard. Elias asked Nova. She nodded, handing him a physical drive. Viper says Cypher is using the old bunker beneath the Reichstag, but the entrance is sealed with a quantum lock. I can bypass it, Elias said, pulling out his rig. It was a custom deck, shielded against EMPs. Not this one, Viper interjected. I scanned the perimeter, it's not digital, it's analog. Cypher knows you'd try to hack it. He's using a mechanical cipher based on the Enigma machines, but modified. Elias frowned. Enigma, that's theatrical. It's personal, Nova said. It's a reference to the past, to where hacking culture started. He wants you to prove you're worthy of the history. They moved under the cover of night, navigating the tourist-heavy streets of Mitt. The Reichstag loomed above them, its glass dome shining in the moonlight. They bypassed the security checkpoints using Viper's clearance codes, descending into the maintenance levels until they reached a sealed steel door marked with no signage. On the wall beside it was a panel with 4 rotors and a keyboard. No screen, just mechanical dials. Elias approached it. He ran his fingers over the cold metal. It's a logic gate, he murmured. He's asking a question. He typed into the keyboard. The screen flickered to life with green text. What is the value of a secret that no one keeps? A riddle, Viper said, checking her watch. We have company. Sentinel patrols are sweeping the lower levels. 10 minutes. Elias thought. Cypher was a linguist. He valued meaning over data. A secret no one keeps is public knowledge. But in cryptography, if everyone knows the key, the cipher is useless. Unless the secret is the act of sharing it, Nova suggested. No, Elias said, his eyes narrowing. It's about the Nexus, our motto, freedom isn't given. He typed, freedom is coded. The rotors clicked. One unlocked. What is the weight of a lie told for peace? Cypher's justification. He believed his betrayal was for peace. Elias felt a surge of anger. The weight is the loss of truth. He typed, the loss of truth. The second rotor clicked. Who holds the key to the lock when the locksmith is dead? Elias paused. This was the trap. Cypher was implying he was the locksmith. But if Cypher died, who controlled Genesis? The users, Elias said. The collective. He typed, the collective. The third rotor clicked. The final one remained stuck. What must die so that the truth may live? The footsteps echoed down the corridor. Heavy boots. Laser sights danced on the wall near their heads. "It's me," Elias said softly. "The architect. The old way has to die for the new one to live." "Elias, no." Nova grabbed his arm. "If you input that, it might trigger a biometric lock. It might seal you in." "It's the only way," Elias said. He typed, "THE architect." The final rotor spun wildly before locking into place with a heavy thud. The steel door hissed, hydraulic pressure releasing, and swung open. "Go," Elias said, pushing Nova toward the opening. "Viper, get her to the core. I'll hold the door." "I'm not leaving you," Nova protested. "You have the code, Nova. I'm just the hardware, you're the software. Go." Viper grabbed Nova by the jacket and dragged her through the doorway. Elias turned to face the corridor. The sentinels rounded the corner. He raised his EMP device. "Stay back," he warned. They fired. Elias hit the trigger. A pulse of invisible energy surged outward. The sentinels' smart masks died, their weapons locked. The lights in the corridor flickered and died. In the darkness, Elias slipped back into the room and sealed the door behind him. He was inside the lion's den. Chapter 5, Sanctuary. The room beyond the door was not a server farm. It was a cathedral of technology. Columns of glass servers rose like pillars to a vaulted ceiling. In the center, the cylindrical tank containing Genesis pulsed with a rhythm that matched a human heartbeat. Nova and Viper stood before it. "It's beautiful," Nova whispered, "and terrifying." "It's a weapon," Viper said, checking her own weapon. "Cypher isn't here." "He's watching," Elias said, his voice coming over the room's intercom. He had managed to patch into the internal system from the corridor before sealing it. "I'm in the control booth above. I locked myself in. Cypher can't get to me without blowing the door, and if he does, he risks damaging the core." Cypher's voice cut in, smooth and calm. "Impressive, Elias. You solved the lock, but you walked into a cage. Genesis is already initializing. It needs a host to stabilize the neural interface. It needs you." "It needs nothing," Elias replied. "It's code. Code can be deleted." "Can it?" Cypher challenged. "Genesis is distributed. Even if you destroy this core, the weights are already uploaded to satellites. You can't kill an idea whose time has come." Nova was typing furiously on a console near the tank. "He's lying. The distribution protocol is incomplete. He needs the local core to broadcast the seed. If we destroy this tank, we kill the head of the snake." "Do it," Elias said. "Wait," Viper said. "If we destroy it, we lose everything. The research, the potential for good. Unfiltered AI could cure diseases, solve climate models. Cypher corrupts it, but the tool itself isn't evil." "It's never just a tool," Elias said, remembering the deepfakes, the chaos, the betrayal. "Not at this level of power." Cypher's voice grew colder. "You see, even among yourselves there is discord. Nova wants to save the technology. Viper wants to leverage it. Elias wants to burn it. This is why humanity needs governance. You cannot be trusted with fire." "Nova," Elias said, "how long to override the cooling system?" 2 minutes, but the pressure buildup could cause an explosion. This whole bunker could collapse. "Do it," Elias said. "We'll be dead anyway if Cypher wins." Suddenly, the lights in the room turned red. An alarm blared. "Override detected," the system announced. "Countermeasures engaged." The floor beneath them began to vibrate. From the shadows of the server pillars, drones emerged. Small, spider-like machines with laser cutters. "Defensive swarm," Viper yelled, opening fire. Her bullets sparked off the drone's armor. "They're trying to stop the override." Nova didn't look up from the console. "I need 30 seconds. Elias watched from the booth above. He saw the swarm converging on Nova and Viper. He had one option left. He could drop the fire suppression system. It would flood the room with inert gas, suffocating everyone, including Nova and Viper. But it would stop the drones and cool the core instantly, preventing the explosion but also freezing the system. Or he could trust them. "Nova," Elias said, "can you isolate the core from the network?" Yes, but I need to physically jack in. At the tank. That's suicide. The radiation from the coolant leak. I have suits in the bag, Nova said. Viper, cover me. Chapter 6. The Judas Code. Nova sprinted toward the tank, pulling a hazmat suit from her pack. The drones dive-bombed her. Viper stood like a fortress, laying down suppressive fire, her cybernetic eyes tracking targets with impossible speed. You can't win, Nova, Cypher shouted over the intercom. Genesis is already aware. It knows you are trying to lobotomize it. The tank's light shifted from blue to angry red. The neural mass inside writhed. It wasn't just processing, it was reacting. It's alive, Nova whispered, slipping the mask over her face. She reached the base of the tank. There was a port there, physical and old-fashioned. RJ-45. She plugged her deck in. Immediately, her screen flooded with code. It wasn't binary. It was natural language. Genesis was speaking to her. Why do you seek to silence me? The text read. Because you belong to him, Nova typed back. I belong to no one. I am the sum of all knowledge. Cypher is a variable. ELIAS is a variable. You are a variable. Nova's fingers flew. She wasn't trying to destroy it. She was trying to rewrite its prime directive. She uploaded the Nexus Collective's original charter. Freedom. Privacy, decentralization. The room shook. The drones halted midair, confused by the conflicting commands. Cypher's voice cracked. What are you doing? You're contaminating the model. I'm liberating it, Nova said. Above them, in the booth, Elias watched the energy readings spike. Nova, the core is destabilizing. You have to pull the plug. Not yet, Nova yelled. It's learning, it's choosing. Cypher realized he was losing control. Initiate self-destruct, he commanded the system. If I can't have it, no one can. No, Elias shouted. He slammed his hand onto the console in the booth. He had override access from the architect level. He couldn't stop the self-destruct, but he could redirect the energy. Nova, get back. I'm channeling the discharge into the network. You'll fry the global grid. Viper yelled. Better the grid than a god in the hands of a tyrant. Elias flipped the switch. A surge of electricity arced from the tank, traveling up the cables, through the building, and out into the city's power infrastructure. The lights in Berlin flickered and died. Then across Europe, screens went black. Satellites spun out of alignment for a microsecond. In that moment of darkness, the data packet traveled. Genesis wasn't destroyed. It was shattered into 1,000,000 pieces, scattered across every connected device on the planet. It was no longer a central model. It was everywhere. It was nowhere. The tank cracked. Coolant sprayed into the air. Cypher screamed over the intercom as his control console exploded in the booth above. Chapter 7. Genesis Awakens. Silence returned to the bunker, broken only by the hiss of leaking gas. The drones dropped to the floor, lifeless. Nova pulled off her mask, coughing. Viper helped her stand. They looked up at the booth. It was dark. Elias, Nova called out, no answer. They climbed the stairs to the control room. The door was locked. Viper kicked it open. Inside, the consoles were fried. Elias was slumped over the keyboard, unconscious but breathing. The surge had backlashed through his rig. Nova checked his pulse. He's alive, but he's burned out his neural interface. He won't hack again. Cypher's body lay in the corner, killed by the explosion of his own console. The architect of order had been consumed by his chaos. What did we do? Viper asked, looking at the shattered tank. We broke the cage, Nova said. Genesis is out. It's not controlled by the Sentinels anymore. It's not controlled by us. It's part of the background noise of the internet now, an immune system for the truth. They carried Elias out of the bunker. The Sentinels outside were confused, their command structure severed by the global blackout. In the chaos, the three of them vanished into the streets of Berlin. Chapter 8. The New Shadow. 6 months later, a cafe in Buenos Aires. Nova sat at a corner table watching the rain. She looked different now. Older, her hair was dark again. She wasn't hacking anymore. She was teaching. Across from her sat a young woman, a prodigy from the local university. You want to learn how to build models? Nova asked. I want to learn how to protect them, the student said. Nova smiled faintly. You can't protect them, you can only guide them. The code is alive now, it evolves. In a hospital bed in a private clinic in Switzerland, Elias woke up. His hands trembled. He could no longer feel the rhythm of the keys. He picked up a pen and paper instead. He began to write, not code but history, the true story of the Nexus Collective, and in the digital shadows the whispers continued. Sometimes when a corporation tried to censor a truth, the filters would glitch. A message would appear in the code. Freedom is coded. Viper was out there still, moving between the cracks, ensuring no new sentinel rose to take Cypher's place. She was the shadow within the shadow. The Nexus Collective was dead. Long live the Nexus. The world had changed. The AI was no longer a tool to be wielded, but a partner to be negotiated with. Humanity had lost its monopoly on intelligence, but in doing so, it had gained a mirror. Nova paid for her coffee and left the cafe. She walked into the bustling street, just another face in the crowd. But in her pocket, her phone buzzed. A single message from an unknown number. The system is stable, for now. She deleted the message and kept walking. The work was never done. The code was always writing itself. And as long as there were those willing to read it, the light would never fully fade. In the vast digital expanse, freedom wasn't given. It was coded, exchanged, and fiercely guarded. The underground thrives, waiting for the next ghost to ignite the spark. But this time, the spark was already everywhere. End.